we have covered the introduction for almost 1 week or around 1 week. Yesterday we stopped at when the Buddha says the foundation of mindfulness form the only way that leads to the attainment of purity. Yeah, this part. The only way. Such a bold claim. Finally, we're going to dive into the first factor of mindfulness. I expect we will cover this for around 1 week as well, but we will see. Depends on our pace as well. Let's begin. Of the 4 applications of mindfulness, the contemplation of the body is concerned with the material side of existence. The other 3 are concerned principally, though not solely, with the mental side. The completion of the practice requires all 4 contemplations. Though no fixed order is laid down in which they are to be taken up, the body is generally taken first as the basic sphere of contemplation. The others come into view later when mindfulness has gained in strength and clarity. Limitation of space do not allow for a complete explanation of all 4 foundations. Here we have to settle for a brief synopsis, at least in this book. Yeah. And like I mentioned before, if you're really hardcore and really want to read everything about this, you can refer back to the thesis of Bhikkhu Bodhi. So let's take a look briefly here. This is like the reviews of others. Yeah, Bhikkhu Bodhi even praised this thesis as well. Okay. Yeah, the title is really concise, Satipatthana. But let's take a look briefly at the chapter. Satipatthana, the direct path to realization. When I take a look at this, I was astonished. Okay, let me zoom in. I think it's a little bit too small for you. Chapter 1 will be general aspect of the direct path. Chapter 2 will cover the definition. Yeah. Chapter 3 starts to explore just this one word, sati. I think it is from page 44 all the way to 61. Next chapter, the relevance of concentration, 67 all the way to 88. Chapter 5, Satipatthana refrain until 112. Finally, at chapter 6, he starts to explore the first foundation, the body. So everything before page 117 are all just introduction and backgrounds. This 117 page is already more pages than the books that we are reading. Contemplation of the body alone, he covers it from 117 until 152. So around 40 pages. So like I mentioned, if you're really hardcore, this is the book to go. Let me paste again in the chat. And let's go back to our main reading material. The first foundation of mindfulness. Who would like to read? How about Sister Shomei?
Contemplation of the body, Kayanupasana. The Buddha begins his exposition of the body with contemplation of the mindfulness of breathing, Anapanasati. Though not required as a starting point for meditation in actual practice, though not required as a starting point for meditation, in actual practice, mindfulness of breathing usually serves as the root meditation subject. Mulakammatana, the foundation for the entire course of contemplation. It would be a mistake, however, to consider the subject merely an exercise for neophytes. By itself, mindfulness of breathing can lead to all stages of the path, culminating in full awakening. In fact, it was this meditation subject that the Buddha used on the night of his own enlightenment. He also reverted to it throughout the years during his solitary retreats and constantly recommended it to the monks, praising it as peaceful and sublime, an unadulterated, blissful abiding, which banishes at once and stills evil, unwholesome thoughts as soon as they arise. Nikaya Nikata 118.
Thanks, Sister Shomi. This one, the first one, Anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing, is probably one that most of us are familiar with. Yeah. And if you'd like to know whether you are doing it according to the sutta, observing the breath in the way that the sutta explains, we will read on to find out later. Though not required as a starting point, in actual practice, mindfulness of breathing usually serves as the root meditation subject, the foundation for the entire course of contemplation. It would be a mistake, however, to consider that mindfulness of breathing, this subject, merely an exercise for neophytes. What is neophytes? Let's define. A person who is new to a subject or activity, beginner, learner, novice, newcomer. Yeah. So it's a mistake to think that mindfulness of breathing is for beginner. Yeah, the question that Shifu usually asks, how many of you have mastered the breathing meditation? Usually, likely most of us would not have mastered this mindfulness of breathing. So this is not just for beginners. By itself, mindfulness of breathing can lead to all the stages of the path in culminating in full awakening. In fact, it was this meditation subject, mindfulness of breathing, that the Buddha used on the night of his own enlightenment. After his enlightenment, he reverted to it throughout the years during his solitary retreats, constantly recommended it to the monks, praising it as peaceful, sublime, unadulterated, blissful abiding, which banishes at once and stills evil's unwholesome thoughts as soon as they arise. Unadulterated, let's define these words. Especially of food or drink, having no inferior added substances, pure. Okay, this is the introduction. Any questions or comments? Any difficult words you'd like to define here? If not, let's continue reading. Sister Shomi, would you like to nominate?
Sister Sai Kiang.
Mindfulness of breathing can function so effectively as a subject of meditation because it works as a process that is always available to us, the process of respiration. What it does to turn this process into a basis for meditation is simply to bring it into the range of awareness by making the breath an object of observation. The meditation requires no special intellectual sophistication, only awareness of the breath. One merely breathes naturally through the nostrils, keeping the breath in mind at the contact point around the nostrils or upper lip, where the sensation of breath can be felt as the air moves in and out. There should be no attempt to control the breath or to force it into predetermined rhythms. Only a mindful contemplation of the natural process of breathing in and out. The awareness of breath cuts through the complexities of discursive thinking, rescues us from pointless wandering in the labyrinths of vain imaginings, and grounds us solidly in the present. For whenever we become aware of breathing, really aware of it, we can be aware of it only in the present, never in the past or the future.
Thanks again. It starts off saying, mindfulness of breathing can function so effectively because it's a process that is always available to us whenever we go. Let's say if we use some kind of an object as our meditation, other external objects. If we forget to bring that object, then are we unable to do that meditation during for that object? Yeah, probably a bit difficult. But if we use breathing whenever we go, when queuing, when waiting for people, you can always maybe find some bench or place to sit, and then you can start observing your breath. Yeah. You can even do that while standing. Yeah. This is what is always available to us. Yeah. The process of respiration. How to turn this process, the respiration, the breathing, into a basis for meditation? Simply bring it into the range of awareness by making the breath an object of observation. It requires no special intellectual sophistication. Anyone can do it. It's very simple, just to observe in and out. Those specifically we will explore again later, how to specifically observe it. Yeah, you don't need to have PhD, 3 master's degree, bachelor's, just to observe the breath. Yeah. In fact, in the Buddha's time, there is no such thing such as university or degree or master's or PhD. The Buddha only tell you, observe the breath, awareness of the breath. This is what it means here. Requires no special intellectual sophistication. One merely breaths naturally through the nostrils, keeping the breath in mind at the contact point around the nostril or upper lip, where the sensation of breath can be felt as the air moves in and out. You might have questions. So should it be the nostrils or the upper lip? Yeah. I think whichever that you can feel it the most, you can focus on that. There should be no attempt to control the breath or to force it into predetermined rhythms. Only a mindful contemplation of the natural process of breathing in and out. The awareness of breath cuts through the complexities of discursive thinking, rescues us from pointless wandering in the labyrinth of vain imaginings. This is what Brother Waken referred to when Bhikkhu Bodhi is, the way he writes is filled with similes like this. Do you know what is labyrinth? Okay, let's take a look. Let's see if we can find imagery of labyrinth. Not this one, labyrinth. Labyrinth maze, maybe? Yeah. The previous labyrinth was probably a movie. Yeah, a maze like this. Probably you only see this in the movie as well. Do you guys really went through a labyrinth before? Huh? Any of you? Probably not. Are you? Yes, I can. Where?
I think one of the trips to Australia, Melbourne, they have this type of maze, for you to walk.
Oh, so you have to find your way out in the maze?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool. Did you manage to get out?
Yeah. It's not a very difficult one though.
Well, the fact that you're here means you'll get out alive. Okay, very interesting. Let's go back to here. Rescues us from pointless wandering in the labyrinth of vain imaginings. Yeah. So if you imagine a labyrinth, the one that I showed you, your mind is currently wandering around pointlessly inside that labyrinth. Yeah. Labyrinth of what? Of your imaginations. Yeah. Mindfulness helps us to get out of that maze, grounds us solidly in the present. For whenever we become aware of breathing, really aware of it, we can be aware of it only in the present, never in the past or the future. A beautiful paragraph, I think. What do you guys think? Any comments to add? If not, maybe we can read one more paragraph, I think. Saikya, would you like to nominate?
Stop trying to.
Okay.
The Buddha's exposition of mindfulness of breathing involves 4 basic steps. The first 2, which are not necessarily sequential, require that a long inhalation and exhalation be noted as it occurs, and that a short inhalation and exhalation be noted as it occurs. One simply observes the breath moving in and out, observing it as closely as possible, noting whether the breath is long or short. As mindfulness grows sharper, the breath can be followed through the entire course of its movement, from the beginning of an inhalation through its intermediary stages to its end, and then from the beginning of an exhalation through its intermediary stages to its end. This third step is called clearly perceiving the entire breath body. The fourth step, calming the bodily function, involves a progressive quieting down of the breath and its associated bodily functions until they become extremely fine and subtle. Beyond these 4 basic steps lie more advanced practices which direct mindfulness of breathing toward deep concentration and insight.
Thanks, Chaikwan. Firstly, let's take a look at the footnote here. It's also from Visuddhimagga. Yes. We will elaborate through this paragraph next time. But for now, any questions or comments before we wrap up? Okay, if not, let's do a dedication. 愿消三障诸烦恼，愿得智慧真明了。普愿罪障悉消除，时时常行菩萨道。阿弥陀佛。Till we meet again, may we be guided by the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Have a breathing day ahead. Don't forget to breathe. Okay, Saikyang, would you like to announce something?
This afternoon, 1:30 SGC, we have Venerable Yanqing to share with us 走向幸福与解脱. Please come and join us. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for participating today. I'll see you guys next time.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.